watching my ENCORE series. These are videos and performances regarding myself and my teaching and tutorials going way back when, some as much as 6 years ago. Also, these are some of my more popular videos. Hope you enjoy it. This is the ENCORE series from Kurt Thompson and TRUMPETSIZZLE. Please watch. And don't forget to subscribe, comment, and like. I'll see you in the next one. Kurt Thompson here, debunking more myths. And the air myth. The air myth. A couple of gurus in the past are really known for talking about the air, airflow, moving the air. And I buy into some of that, really do. For especially playing in the low register and the middle register. Quantity of this air that they're talking about, really breathing from the diaphragm and all the way up, and letting the air come out and help you sing up in the upper register. That is a myth, folks. And let's talk about the physics. So you can understand when your university professor tells you it's all about the air. I actually had a French horn, Dr. Olson from Austin Peay State University. I remember when I was trying to get past upper register in college, first couple of years, and get into the extreme upper register so I could do some of the Maynard. My trumpet professor there, who was a great trumpet guy, he didn't really have that much of an upper register, and at least in my opinion. And so I took a couple lessons with Dr. Olson, who was all about air. He told me the reason that I couldn't play in the extreme upper register of the instrument is because of my lack of air. And I really needed to work on airflow. And anyway, I did a lot of his exercise. He was a French horn and faculty member, tenured at Austin Peay State University, Dr. Olson. Ken Olson, I think is his name. And I remember working on some of his techniques for a couple of weeks, and I got worse because I was trying to do the technique of using a lot of air and just no pressure here and no strain. He said, don't even tense up at all. No muscle power here, no nothing, no lip. It's just all air. Well, as a kid, of course, I was trusting him since he was supposedly the expert. Now that I am in the position where I'm at now, I know he totally was talking out his ass. He didn't know what he was talking about. Physics. This is your lips, obviously, and your embouchure set. And you're going to have a little bit of a hole that will form. See, it's like a crack. It's not really a hole. But we call it the aperture. Now, folks, use your noggin on this one. If I blow a tremendous amount of air, breathing from my diaphragm, let's take that correct breath, stomach out. You see it? My lips open up. Watch it again. My lips are opening up significantly. Why are they doing that? The tremendous amount of quantity of air and the speed of air is causing my lips to blow out just from the sheer force and the sheer quantity of air coming out. My lips can't contain it all. Now, if you're really thinking about this, and you know that you need the most narrow aperture possible to jettison out fast air vibrations for the upper register on any brass instrument, what does that tell you? That tells you that the more quantity of air you try to blow out, especially if this is not strong, you're going to have a limited upper register. Now, even if this is strong, and mine's pretty decently strong, it's the physics. I can't blow as much air out as a lot of these college professors and your own private instructor might be telling you to. And I got a pretty strong embouchure, and I can't hold all that air. Can't do it. What happens if you don't have a very good strong embouchure like I do? Well, then you're even. You got like two strikes against you right there. So we have to use our noggin on this one and realize that it's the compressed air, not the quantity. And that's what, you don't really hear that from university music faculty, compressed air. You hear air, airflow. It's all about the air. Diaphragmatic breathing, that's what you hear, but you don't hear compressed air. So they're confusing a lot of people. The reason is because they can't do it themselves. They don't know what's going on. Okay, so you're going to have to back off on some of the high notes and just let the compressed air do the work. So if I take a big breath, let's see what we got here. That was a concert E flat F. I blew some decent air through the horn, but it was mainly compressed air. I wasn't trying to overblow and blow my lips out. Now if I try to go more, I'm really shoving a tremendous amount of air through the horn, and I start to notice my tone quality goes out the window. The note chips a little bit and dances around. The reason is I'm fighting to contain this narrow aperture with the strength of my chops. And all that air is just blowing my lips out. Remember, as soon as your aperture widens even slightly, we're talking about a millimeter, your range drops. Listen to that again. As soon as you cannot contain the narrow aperture here, and if we're talking about micromillimeters, a millimeter, just a fraction, your range drops. Boom. That's how tight the clearance is right there. So if you're trying to fill up and blow this huge amount of air in the upper register, you're actually fighting the wrong fight. You're making things really hard on yourself. Now, if you're trying to play in the middle register, middle, right? Now, look at my aperture. Fruit, earn right there for a middle C. That's like a million times wider than I would use for above high C. So because my aperture is already wider, and of course I got my low C tongue position, there's no compression going on there really, except for the natural compression from the diaphragm and maybe the bottleneck in your throat, but there's no tongue arch. Other than that, there's not really compression. So I am able to blow. That is where the university professors are correct when it comes to your air. So when you're in the middle and low register, they are correct about that. Then it is a lot about air more than anything else. So if you can think of in terms of trumpet speak, let's say the middle of the staff, middle C, which is third space C in the treble clef staff, maybe D, maybe E, but now you're getting to the top of the staff, but right around there, C, D, E, and down. Now all that air advice you've been getting from your instructors and your college instructors and your university professors, that is good advice. That is good advice, because you do need to have worked on a lot of air and breathing techniques for that. But it's counterintuitive. I know it seems counterintuitive that you need a lot more air and have to huff and puff, but you're actually working against yourself as you go higher. You actually have to use less quantity of air. So on a high C, what if I take in less air? Here's a full breath. What if I take in half a breath for the high C? I actually get a lot more vibrancy and brassiness to my tone, and I'm not overblowing it. And it's not going to gas out my chops. That's a high C, so that's the beginning of upper register. Ooh, that's a very, very narrow aperture for a high concert D, which would be high E on trumpet. Barely any space in the aperture for that to come out. That was a double high G. And of course, we all know what a double high G is, right, university professors? You got your high G that sits right on top of the staff, and if you double that an octave higher, you got your double high G. See, fortunately, a lot of them don't get that part right either. So that's actually a double high G. A high G is the G, the little G that sits right on top of the staff, the treble clef staff. So know your notes on trumpet, folks. The next one. Let's see where we're at. Okay, here we go. There was probably a pinhole of a space in my aperture for that, what should have been a double C. Let's double check it. Yeah. Try it again. Hardly any aperture there at all, barely. Like maybe not even a pinhole for that double C to come out. And I wasn't using that much air. So as you go higher, you can get away without using much air. Now I'm not really warmed up for the high notes here, but if I don't want to take that, you saw me take a big breath before. That's a big breath for me. You can't tell, but I am breathing. My stomach's going out first, and then my chest is rising, and I lift up my shoulders a little bit more to allow my lungs expanding more, and then I come back down. That's where I get part of my compression. So So the people who tell you don't raise your shoulders when you're taking a breath, they obviously don't play in the upper register, or if they do, they suck at it. Watch any of the heavyweight upper register experts like Maynard Ferguson. I've even seen a couple of video clips of Bud Brisbois. Bud Brisbois developed the original Bud Brisbois wedge breath. It wasn't Bobby Shew. Check it out. Bud is a lot older than Bobby Shew. Of course, he's passed away now, but Bud developed the wedge breath, and of course that involves taking as much air, swallowing the air, and then bringing your shoulders up, and then coming down. That's where you get the pressure. So I hate to keep beating up on the people that really can't play that high, but they're good test takers. They got the DMA, right? So they're good test takers, and they know how to play the game. But most of their technique doesn't make any sense. So when they tell you to keep your shoulders down, when you're playing and you're supposed to take a big breath, how can you actually take a big breath with your arms and your shoulders down, locking your lungs in, where you can't even expand your rib cage? Anyway, I feel sorry for some of these people. So anyway, what if you Now, you know my big breath. The point where I'm going with this is I don't want to take a big breath. What if I took even less air? So how about 25% air? Okay, so I'm letting all the air out. Now, I only had 25% of a take of air in my lungs. You heard at the very, very end of that, I put a little meat on the bone on that double C. You probably can't tell because I'm recording this on my phone camera, but it got up to about a forte. It wasn't a Barry the Band double C, but it was about a forte. That was on 25% tank of air for me. Now, I would probably want to take another 25% more to at least have a half a tank. But there's no way in heck I'm going to try to shove the largest quantity of air that I have in my lungs through this horn for a double C. I probably would overblow, but probably nothing would come out. So anyway, that's your lesson, and this is a real logical lesson based on physics. And unfortunately, for a lot of brass players, you don't get a logical lesson based on physics. You get a illogical lesson based on passed down theories that don't have any merit. Usually they're passed down theories in academia. Because the DMA that's teaching you, well, that's what they learned from their DMA, and that's what they learned from their DMA, and on and on and on. Good test takers? Yes. Yes. Got a good memory for regurgitating all those facts? Yes, they do. Are they the best players in the world? Almost certainly not. No. And they're not always the best teachers either. Go back and rewind this video. It should make a lot of sense to you. And if it does, you know what to do, baby. Send me an email. Kurt@TrumpetSizzle.com, or just go to my site. You're going to get the real deal at my site. I don't have to kiss any department chairman's butt to be able to say what I'm doing. And I don't have to kiss any contractor's ass either and worry about whether or not I'm going to get a gig. I make my own gigs. I am the contractor. So I say what I want, and I say the real truth here for everybody. I don't have to kowtow to anybody. And if you like that frank, honest, brutal, in-your-face truth, you'll like working with me, and you'll actually like getting results. Until next time. This is the Encore series from Kurt Thompson and TRUMPETSIZZLE. And don't forget to subscribe, comment, and like. I'll see you in the next one.